I went to Tokyo for 24 hours. It all started with a 4 a.m. wake up, which was painful, but worth it for the eventual sushi. I arrived at the airport at 4:30 a.m. before they had even turned on all the lights. But a greasy breakfast and the first of many coffees helped to wake me up, and before I knew it, I was on my first of 6 flights in this 4-day trip on my way to Vancouver.
I've made it to Vancouver. Now I have to quickly go get the medical kit and get back to fly to Tokyo.
I arrived back at the airport and took the medical kit through airport security for the first of 4 times on this trip, with the usual challenges. But at least I didn't have as much trouble as the guy who I let in front of me at security, who later ran out on the tarmac, only to be tackled by the RCMP. After the most orderly boarding process I have ever seen, I enjoyed the surprisingly comfortable 10-hour flight to Tokyo. Before I knew it, I was in 34-degree Tokyo and on my way into the city to assess the patient. Thankfully, he was fit to fly, which meant that my 18 hours to myself in Tokyo had begun. I started with a long walk which took me by the Imperial Palace before a very tasty sushi dinner in a restaurant at Tokyo Station, which is the busiest train station in all of Japan. After dinner, I enjoyed the long walk back to the hotel before going to bed around 10 p.m., successfully following the anti-jet lag app's recommendations that I had quickly developed a love-hate relationship with. In the morning, I was out by 7 a.m. in search of caffeine and some form of food, but with most cafes not opening for at least another hour, I took the opportunity to make a Japanese 7-Eleven visit before getting a not very Japanese cafe breakfast. I spent the morning wandering around and exploring before the rain rolled in. It turns out a monsoon was approaching. And then I retreated back to the hotel to get ready to take the patient back to Toronto. We went to the airport, and I eventually got past airport security with the medical kit again, and we had time for a quick lounge visit before boarding our flight to Vancouver. The flight was medically uneventful, which allowed for a little bit of time to enjoy business class. After clearing passport control, I had to get the medical kit through airport security for the 3rd time with the usual delays, before we again got a lounge visit in before catching a flight to Toronto, where again, it was a medically uneventful flight. We arrived late in the evening, and after dropping the patient off at home, I finally got back to the hotel at 11 p.m. for a brief sleep before leaving for the airport at 5:30 a.m. before the sun had even risen. I got the medical kit through security for the 4th and final time of this trip, and I cursed the anti-jet lag app as it told me not to nap all day. I did sneak in a couple of very short illegal naps. Combined with a lot of caffeine, I survived the journey back to Vancouver, where I dropped off the medical kit before getting on my final flight of the trip back to Calgary, landing 85 hours after it all began.
In 4 days, I went from Calgary to Vancouver, to Tokyo, to Vancouver, to Toronto, to Vancouver, and back to Calgary. And I am ready for a good night of sleep. But it was fun.